Forgot to start the music video, Adam. So we are just gonna roll right straight on into this episode
Oh,
and
that's quite
welcome
all right.
everyone to the Purple People podcast. You guys don't need the intro video. We are what 636, 38
I don't even know.
episodes. We are a lot of episodes into this by now. So 633 is what the internet tells me today. You are going to get the Adam Carlson and Kyle West show this week because that idiot Kyle Smith thinks he gets to be at the Super Bowl without us.
Yeah, we're kicking it old school over here, back from the Skype days.
Hopefully, it doesn't crash and we have to re record the whole program.
Oh boy, that would be something.
Oh, horror stories. We could tell horror stories for hours. There were legitimate times that we lost entire episodes and we had to go back and re record the whole thing.
But quite a bit has happened since the last show, and it's going to be interesting to talk to you about it because we haven't really gotten to.
Yeah, it's been a pretty busy week on my end. I haven't really been on the computer much. So we're a little bit later than what we'd like to with this one. So it's not breaking news, but it is still definitely big news that the Vikings made some front office changes at the general manager position.
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much of a change as that it's just a subtraction.
Yeah,
But yeah, it kind of caught me off guard. I knew that he was had a little bit warmth under his seat, but I didn't know it was that hot, and I didn't know all this drama was going to come out about how there was like a disconnect about what was going on with McCarthy and all that. It was all a bit much for me.
yeah, we'll dive into the drama aspect of this here in a little bit. I think that I kind of just want to start on the football side of it first before we get too deep into the drama because I have opinions that differ a little bit from everyone else on that. I think a lot of that has been overblown by other parts of the media, but we'll get to that in a minute. So I think that the timing of them moving on from Kwesi is what surprised me. I assumed that if they were going to do the move, it would have been, after the end of the season, like immediately after the end of the season. So when it didn't happen on a Monday or a Tuesday or a couple days preceding, I kind of thought, all right, hey, he's safe. They're going to give him another year. They're going to give him another draft. We're going to let this unfold and see what happens. So the fact that and it's not a bad thing that they took their time. I am glad that they took their time to kind of make this decision.
But you're
It
mentioning
was
the timing, and I thought that was really odd because wasn't he down scouting at the Shrine Bowl?
He was at the Senior Bowl. I don't know if he was at the Senior Bowl when they fired him, but he was like he had just attended that.
So strange.
Yeah, so it is a little on the unusual side, I think. Although I do want to say I do respect the Wilf family and the Vikings ownership for trying to not make a rash decision. There are a lot of times I think, hey, use the Cleveland Browns as an example. They make a lot of just in the moment decisions,
Right.
and that's why you see them cycle through general managers and head coaches and quarterbacks and everything. And we're used to the NFL news cycle being so rapid fire. Uh, I do kind of like the fact that the Wolves took a minute and they listened to people and they gathered information and they kind of made the choice that they felt was right for the Minnesota Vikings moving forward. You don't have to rush these things.
Well, let's be kind of honest here too, because the 2025 season wasn't really the massive disaster that it could have been. I mean, you ended with a 9-8 record, and the team didn't end up in the bottom of the NFC North, and they had like pretty close to one of the best records of a non-playoff team. Considering everything, they didn't do that poorly, and then to still have the general manager be let go, I was a bit surprised.
It is weird. It's also their win loss record this year is weird because they don't feel like they should have won as many games as
Right?
what they did. Like it doesn't to me this feels worse than than when we were a 3-win team underneath Leslie Frazier. Like looking back at this last season, like it feels like it was that bad at times for the Vikings.
We watched some really bad football this season.
Some of the worst quarterback play I've ever seen, and not just from the Minnesota Vikings, but just as a football fan in general. Like we've seen some
Right.
absolutely terrible, terrible quarterback play out there. Uh, that was a big part, I think, of what led to them moving on from the general manager. Is I think that there was a general lack of having a concrete plan in place for moving forward. And I do think it bit them in the ass on not 100% having a plan in place for, okay, hey, you had Sam Darnold, you won a bunch of games with him. Maybe you weren't confident that you could replicate that. Maybe you thought you were going to move on to another quarterback and still have that success. Uh, every plan A, B, and C all seem to fall apart for the Vikings, and I think that that kind of had a big impact on them letting go of the general manager as well too.
Well, another issue is that Minnesota hired a first-time general manager and then expected him to act like a seasoned veteran when he came in. And they weren't going to get that, especially since he didn't have his own data or team really when he first came in. So he essentially had to start over. And when he walked into that draft, that first draft, I don't think he really had enough time to do his due diligence and be ready.
Yeah, and that showed. That definitely showed on some of the picks that he made and some of the trade backs that he made.
Because
He's
the drafting did get better, but we knew as soon as he used a draft pick on JJ McCarthy that his future was going to be tied to McCarthy.
his future was going to be tied to McCarthy, and if there was some tension between Kevin O'Connell maybe wanting to keep Sam Darnold uh, or Daniel Jones, and then losing both of those options,
And
and
offers were made to both of them.
correct, they were, and maybe it was not articulated enough that it were, what kind of competition it was going to be. Maybe that falls on the general manager on just wanting to, looking at it from that analytics side of things and wanting to just name McCarthy your starting quarterback because hey, you can save salary cap space and kind of that's the smart way to go with it. When the football side of things, allegedly Kevin O'Connell had said behind the scenes that JJ McCarthy was not ready to start, that he wasn't
Right.
comfortable with that. So there's a bit of a disconnect coming between your front office and your coaching staff.
But, the general manager couldn't have his top pick quarterback sit out another year and feel good about that pick, I don't think. And it does add a little bit more question too. I know he was hurt, but what was JJ McCarthy doing during that year when he was rehabbing?
Yeah, McCarthy he looked really behind the curve on I think where I and a lot of other fans were expecting him. We had talked about that prior to last off season when we were getting ready to talk about what our expectations from him were. We all said growing pains. We all said
Oh yeah.
it's going to take him a little bit. I did not think it was going to be as bad as what it was with McCarthy out there on the field.
Yeah, it was brutal at times, and it got even worse when Max Brosner came in because that's an undrafted free agent quarterback, and yeah, we can
Who
have all the hope in the world for him, but he is not a guy that was ready to come on in and do much of anything.
Yeah, Max Brosmer, you were looking at, like you said, an undrafted quarterback who probably did not get a lot of reps. He definitely didn't get any reps with the first team, and he probably didn't get very many meaningful reps with the second team during the bulk
No.
of training camp, and especially when you roll into the regular season with McCarthy struggling the way he was struggling, you sure as shit were not spending any time trying to develop Max Rosemer out there. So here's another guy that I know he played really poorly as well too, got thrust into just a terrible, almost no win situation out there on the field as well too. There was a lot of really I don't want to say bad decisions, but there was a lot of decisions that just compounded one another that kind of led
Yeah, things that
into.
didn't work out. Like I will say the GM tried to improve the offensive line, but who would have known that Ryan Kelly would have such a tough season?
Right. We said that. I said that on the show is that I felt like they tried as
And
hard
you
as
got
they
Darius
could.
Howe with his nagging injuries and everything. And like I said in a lot of my articles over on the Viking Age, I mean, this was by far not an ideal season from Minnesota in so many ways, but it still ended up to be it wasn't a failure of a season, but I guess it was bad enough that there was some sort of disconnect that Kwesi had to go.
Right, and as we heard, I'm sure you watched the press conference from Mark Wilf, where he went out and he kind of talked about, what their thought process was with this, and he said that it was not one decision that led them to move on from Kwesi. It was a lot of smaller things that kind of led up to this, that kind of built up and led up to this, and that also makes me wonder if he did not have, in their opinion, a sufficient answer for what the direction of the team was moving forward. I that this is me speculating a little bit, but if you don't have a concrete plan in place for, hey, here's what we're planning on doing at the quarterback position, here's how we think we can be better, that would be a big reason, in my opinion, to move on from him as well too.
When that draft day trade for a backup quarterback just didn't work out and they had to go out and get Carson Wentz and then just scramble, we knew we were all in trouble.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But now we're at a spot where, okay, so the general manager was let go, and now Rob Brzezinski, the guy that has been in charge of the salary cap situation in Minnesota, he was going to take the reins, and we're going to be talking about what his plan is going to be since they're not going to hire anyone else before the draft.
I this has been getting a little bit of flack from the media and some fans about how you're not hiring a general manager. Who's running your draft? What are you doing? What direction are you heading in? I'll be honest. I say I kind of like what they're doing with this. I kind of like not hiring a new general manager and making him scramble to get acclimated with everyone else in the building and your players and your front office, and you're bringing the people that you want to do. And oh, by the way, you got the NFL draft coming up in X amount of days. How are you going to spend your first round draft pick? Like, that's a lot to do at once. I really do believe, and also this is an indictment on what I think of Kwesi as a drafter. Like, you're fine without him. Like, you were totally fine with not having him in the building. Like, that's not
I mean,
going
he's
to.
hit on some good picks. Donovan Jackson's looked good. Dallas Turner's looked good, and
That's a couple, but by and
Jordan
large,
Addison, right? Was that one of his?
potentially, I don't 100% remember on that one, but like, you're fine without him. Like, you can handle, the Vikings organization can handle one draft. You bring in your new GM, and then he's got all all the time in the world to prepare for the 2027 draft.
So, are we going to have a completely different narrative on JJ McCarthy now that the general manager that drafted him is no longer with the team?
I do think so. I do think that that shortens and a maybe already shorter leash on JJ McCarthy,
Because I don't
where
see the Vikings like trying to grab another quarterback in this draft. I don't think that's going to be
I'm
the
no
answer
draft
here.
I am no draft guru, but I've heard this is a pretty awful draft class for
Right.
quarterbacks anyway. So I don't see them going to the draft to try to replace McCarthy. I do think JJ is going to be on this team. I think they will be very aggressive in terms of finding that veteran quarterback who
But I
can
also
come
don't
in.
think JJ is going to be in a position like this season where he was handed the keys at the start of the year. I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, McCarthy was essentially just given the keys to the Ferrari and say, "Hey, don't crash it," and he like immediately backed into a telephone pole with
And
it.
that
Like,
decision impacted so many players. I mean, Justin Jefferson struggled to get 1,000 yards. TJ Hawkinson didn't get much of anything except for when Carson Wentz was at quarterback. I don't really, blame those offensive players for not getting production in the Minnesota offense, but it definitely has to change before anything gets better in Minnesota.
Right. I mean, you had people wondering whether or not Justin Jefferson has he regressed? Is there something going on with him? Like
Right.
no, no, he's gonna be fine. He's gonna be a-okay. Everyone.
But I also think we're at an age in the NFL where a lot of receivers can't be quarterback proof anymore. I know we've talked about, like, okay, when we talk about great receivers that were quarterback proof, Larry Fitzgerald played really well. And it didn't matter who was throwing him the ball; he was a great player.
Yep.
Now, in today's NFL, I think defenses are a little smarter than that and more organized than that, and it's a lot more difficult to succeed without at least decent quarterback play in today's NFL.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. I think in particular, defenses have adjusted a lot more to we're going to key in on your best player and we're going to take your best weapon away from you. Uh, it used to be in the not so distant past when you had a guy like Calvin Johnson, your defense was your defense, and sometimes the Vikings would have just a terrible mismatch out there, and we were just letting Megatron run all over
Oh,
us.
we saw the same thing back in the day with Randy Moss. He just threw up the ball and he went and got it, and that
Right,
was Minnesota.
right. Defenses are a little bit better now about being like, okay, well, maybe we need to key in on this guy. And
And the athleticism of defenses has changed so much. It's so much faster, taller, stronger. Wild to look at.
oh, 100%. But yeah, to get back to your question there, Adam, I do think it puts a shorter leash on JJ McCarthy. Yeah, I still think he's going to be on the team. No, he's not just going to be given the keys to the ship and see, you're the starter, kid. Like, go for it. But I do think that if he sees the field in 2026 and if he struggles like what he did this past season, new general manager, very much not tied to JJ McCarthy. Like you're moving on from the kid and you're
So the
getting your
Vikings have a
own.
lot of contracts that can be adjusted, whether it's restructured or changed up. And I don't think the salary cap situation is as bad as a lot of the media wants people to think.
No, didn't it
But
just go up again?
I have not seen that if it did.
I thought someone said that. I thought I read somewhere a
I
couple
mean, I
days
know
ago
it's
that this.
going to.
Yep, that the salary cap went up because it was like you said. It's suddenly the Vikings are not as far behind as what it had looked like.
But this does mean that Minnesota has to try to get some sort of veteran quarterback in to make some sort of challenge. And I have heard so many names. So
Every
many names.
every name imaginable seems to be attached to the Minnesota Vikings
Oh,
right
yeah.
now. And it's I do believe it's in a an appealing spot for a player to want to come play to.
And it's fun to daydream about, trading for Joe Burrow or something like that. But it's also a little bit scary when you're talking about, oh, we got to go get Geno Smith or something like that. It's like, really?
Yeah, there is there's a wide range of uh, talent and options, and some of them are like you said. The Joe Burrow stuff is a lot of fun to sit here and talk about. Middle of February, not a lot going on right now. So hey, let's talk about Joe Burrow coming on into the Minnesota Vikings. And like I said on a previous podcast, you make that conversation, like you make that phone call. You have to
And why do
find.
people think the Vikings are going to like go into fire sale mode where it's like, oh, this team should trade for Justin Jefferson?
Yeah,
He's not
no,
on the table.
no. I would believe more if they would have kept the general manager that they were going to go in fire sale mode and rebuild from the bottom up. Like I would have believed that narrative more. Uh, But if you're bringing in like the Wilfs want to win, if you listen to Mark Wilf in that press conference, they still believe they have a competitive roster and they
And
want
they
to
do.
win. And they do, and they want to win now, which I do think we can do that. And so that is why they're being aggressive and they're making this move to try to bring in hopefully a better general manager with a better vision for the team. That's why I do think they're going to be aggressive at quarterback. I've got underneath my name. I wouldn't hate it if they brought back Kirk Cousins.
With that restructure in Atlanta, they're going to have to end up letting him go. He's going to be cut, and Reigns, Minnesota makes sense.
If Kirk just ends up being a street free agent and you can sign him and bring him in, I, of course I would do that, because like you said, I don't really want a Geno Smith. I don't really want a Russell Wilson. You know, I
Right.
I don't necessarily. Aaron Rodgers was more intriguing last off season than what he is now. He's a year older, and I'm not necessarily sure if I wanna go down that Aaron Rodgers route
Right.
now. I'm leaning towards no on that one. That to me feels a lot like we had a lot of
And they
success
better
with.
not trade for Kyler Murray because that one,
Yeah,
I'm not feeling that.
yeah, I don't see that one. Any chance of Wentz bouncing back? It was a hell of an injury that he had. He's also getting
With
up
his
there.
age and shoulder and all that, I wouldn't blame it if he was not in action. I could see him as like a quarterback 3 or something like that, but I don't think he's going to come back as a starter or a backup anytime soon.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I like you said, I wouldn't hate having him in the room, just the ever elusive quarterback room that you try to put together. Like, yeah, you can have Carson Wentz in that one, and I think he would bring some merit to it. And as a quarterback three, sure, sure, I'd be okay with that. Uh,
Right.
I definitely don't want to put my eggs in the we're expecting Carson Wentz to play elite in 2026 basket. Like, that feels like a really long shot take.
Yeah, because I don't want a player coming off a shoulder injury coming on the team, and let's say they sign, Daniel Jones or something coming off to his injury, and you're left throwing McCarthy back in there at the start of the season.
Coming off his injury. He's always injured. Like, how many injured quarterbacks do we need? But I wouldn't hate Carson Wentz in some capacity out here. I think that he would be a fine preseason guy to have in there, and let's just see how it shakes out.
So, what would it take for Rob Brzezinski to earn a permanent general manager position in Minnesota?
Well, he's been with the franchise a really long time, so we know that he's and we know this because he's been our salary cap guy, and
Right.
I felt like he's done an excellent job in that capacity for as long as I've been a Minnesota Vikings fan. Um, he would really have to nail this upcoming draft, and I don't quite know what that statement means because it's really dangerous to try to judge a draft immediately after you have it.
Right.
We always talk about needing what, 3 years, 4 years before you can.
That's one reason, like, when a place like Sports Illustrated or something will do initial draft grades, it's like, what are you grading this on?
Yeah, A+ because we had JJ McCarthy and Dallas Turner, and right now only one of those guys looks like they're going to be worth a darn long term for the franchise.
But we had an interesting question here about Kelly and Ryan Kelly, his concussions and all that. I don't think Minnesota can bring him back.
No,
I don't know if they're going to hunt for a replacement center or bring in competition or what, but even if Blake Brandel is part of that competition for center, I think that's the way it's got to work because you can't really afford to. You can't trust Kelly to come back, and I think for Kelly's health, it might be time for him to hang it up.
yeah, I really liked Ryan Kelly from what little we got to know him. He seemed like that tough,
Oh,
gritty
absolutely,
kind of center that like you want to have. The injury, the concussion history with him is just too much. I don't think you
scary.
want to. Yeah, you really don't want to place your bets on him being able to stay healthy for us. And like you said, from his own personal safety, I don't think that he should probably be playing back out there on the field. Blake Brandel, I like. I like what he's done. Uh, is he a starting caliber center in the NFL long term? I'm not sure.
I
He
mean, he
sh-
filled in very well.
he filled in very well, and I like him as a guy who can play center, he can play guard, he can move
Right.
around. He's a good depth guy. I like him better in that role than I do just as your starting center. So I personally, I kind of want to see them try to draft a center and have him and Blake Brandell kind of be your competition throughout training camp and preseason. And whoever wins it, and whoever is your backup can kind of can be your backup and be your kind of swing player. That's kind of what I see. I don't know if I see them going out in free agency again and trying to make another big splash move at center, because centers who are worth a shit don't hit free agency.
Right.
That's just not a thing that happens.
And we got Christian Darrisaw, who was essentially week to week all season long, and we still don't really know where he stands at this moment. So this offensive line that we thought was getting improved ended up really falling apart last year, and I don't see any quick or easy fixes.
There isn't one. That's unfortunately kind of the outlook for the 2026 Minnesota Vikings right now. There's no easy fixes for this team, and there's no magic solution sitting out there at quarterback right now for this franchise. Like, there's no clear path forward on the offensive line, for example, either. You really just have to hope that you nail some draft picks and you can get some solid production from some rookies. That what we're missing the most right now is that.
That sort of youth infusion, is that what
Yeah,
you're
that
talking about?
yep, is that youth infusion. Just that, hey, we drafted a corner and he was able to go out there and start week one and make a difference for this team. We drafted a center and the center was able to he was able to start in week one and he was healthy all year, and darn it, he looked like he's gonna be our guy for the foreseeable future for the
Well,
team.
one problem is that on that defensive line, uh, last offseason, Minnesota paid a lot of money for guys to improve that defensive line.
And it didn't.
Meanwhile, we got guys that we picked up from the, UFL and, undrafted free agents that are coming in playing extremely well, making those guys probably not necessary.
Right, and I don't know if that's another knock on Kwesi, on like you spent a lot of money to bring in some veterans and they kind of got outplayed by some other cheaper talent on the team. Like, that could be another kind of knock on him as well too.
And I know this statement is going to be extremely unpopular, but I don't know if the Minnesota Vikings need Jonathan Grenard anymore. He's a great
Yeah.
player. I love having him on the team. When he's in there, he gets things done, but really, Dallas Turner isn't going to crack that lineup until one of those guys are gone.
Yeah, and I kind of just want to see what Dallas Turner can do. I think he's shown enough to earn that spot.
So yeah, I mean, what you're talking about with the infusion of the youth, that's one reason why Minnesota has so many of these high contracts for these free agents that were supposed to come in and fix a lot of the problems that Minnesota previously had. And that salary cap right now is a main reason Minnesota can't sign back some of these players that they really need to bring back, and why going after a quarterback, even to act as a backup or competition, is going to be challenging.
Yeah, that's a big part of the reason why the Vikings kind of ended up in salary cap hell, Adam. I think that's a really excellent point that you made right there, is that when you're not getting your production from your rookies and you're forcing yourself to go into free agency and pay and overpay for some veterans to kind of bring in, because hey, you want to be competitive, you want to win now. Yeah, that's what can get you tripped up. In a way, the team is almost in the same spot that they were when Kevin O'Connell first came to the
Yeah.
Minnesota Vikings, where you're looking again at having a lot of older veteran players on big contracts that you kind of just have to clear out all at once and just start over.
I do commend Kwesi for doing that. I mean, I know it's kind of hard to let go of guys that have been contributors in Minnesota, but we always talk about on this show the Bill Belichick, let people go early
That's
before it's too
so
late.
that's so easy to say. It's probably a lot harder in practice to do than.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep,
But Minnesota did go out and they hired some new coaches. We got an offensive line coach and I believe a defensive pass coordinator, bunch of stuff that, assistants that come in and help. And that should be nice because Minnesota did not let their other past offensive line coach, they let his contract expire. So they brought in a new guy and hopefully that'll help out.
that's a
But yeah,
nice way
some
to
of these changes have got to do something.
that's a nice way to say thank you, but we really don't want you back.
Right? Hey, it's
It's
better
so
than
hard.
getting fired, ain't it?
It's so yeah, yeah, you're not wrong. It's so hard for me to sit here as a fan and be like, "Oh man, the new offensive line coach is going to come in and it's going to turn things around." It could certainly help, but I will
Right.
freely admit I don't know enough about the old offensive line coach to know if that was the problem on the team or not. But hey, let's hope this can help out and send them in the right direction out there.
I want to say this new offensive line coach is from the Jets.
Don't know if I like that. Don't like anything related to the Jets.
But I know that the Super Bowl is tomorrow for us when we're recording this. I'm gonna upload
Yep.
this on Sunday, so if you're listening to it on Sunday, Super Bowl's today, and we're gonna see quite a few former Vikings in the Super Bowl, and I can't help but feel a little bit of nostalgia because I don't know whether to root for Stephon Diggs or not.
No, he is a terrible person. That makes that pretty easy to not root for him.
Because while we're talking about people we're rooting for, I was really rooting for Kevin Williams to make the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Didn't
Yeah,
happen.
yeah, that's a shame that he didn't make it. No Vikings were in this year.
But next year is the first year of eligibility for Adrian Peterson.
I am super curious about what's going to happen to Peterson.
And
Um,
I've been seeing all over, oh, he's first ballot Hall of Fame for sure. I don't know about for sure.
if after what they did to Bill Belichick, I am not sure about anyone being first ballot Hall of Fame now. That to me is like if and I hated the Patriots when they were out there
Right?
during the run that they had. But as a football fan in general, if Bill Belichick is not a first ballot Hall of Fame coach, guys, I don't know what is.
Yeah, that baffles
It
me.
that to me is just voters who had a grudge against him for whatever reason, whatever thing he said to them or did not say to them. Anyway, um, for Adrian Peterson, I'll be really curious if he gets in first ballot or not. If you look strictly on the field at what he was able to do, particularly the season that he won MVP, and you look at that roster that he had around him, where he literally carried a piss poor Vikings team to the playoffs just based on his play alone. Like he probably is a first ballot Hall of Famer. The season that he was out because of legal issues, and then some of the things that have happened after he's retired. I
Yeah,
don't
the
know.
off-field stuff should. I think that really hurts his legacy. I don't know how much it'll hurt the voting though.
I don't know whether or not that's going to hurt. I don't know whether or not that hurts the chances, and I don't know whether or not it should. Like, are
Right?
you? And I still don't understand. Are you just voting for what the player did on the field when they played, or do you take into account everything else? And I think it's everything else because was isn't that the reason why guys like Terrell Owens, To should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer but wasn't because
Right?
of how he was perceived off the field?
Yeah, I don't know how much any of that's gonna hurt him as far as like character issues and whatnot, but This is definitely going to be interesting to see how that pans out next year when they do decide who the next Hall of Fame class is going to be. Because Adrian Peterson deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. The only question is when.
He, when do you think they'll put him in the Vikings Ring of Honor?
Oh boy.
Do you think that's coming? Oh, okay, so let's backtrack for a minute. Do you think he belongs in the Vikings Ring of Honor? Because the oh boy has me wondering if you're on the
Well,
fence about that one here,
I
Adam.
know how divisive he can be, and I don't think Minnesota really wants to rock a whole lot of boats right now. So I don't see it coming anytime soon. Maybe once the organization gets a little more stable.
I to me, the Vikings Ring of Honor is such a high privilege for this franchise, and you look at the character of the guys who are in there, guys like an Alan Page, for example.
Yeah.
Like that is the level that that's the level that you're being held to go into the Vikings Ring of Honor, in my opinion. And yeah, someone like Randy Moss had some had some issues, but he also kind of cleaned up his act, and I think you know
I mean, don't get me wrong. Jared Allen had issues. There were a lot of guys that had issues off the field.
right. So I'm not saying you can't not have issues and get into the Ring of Honor. I think Peterson. The problem I have with him is that they seem to still be ongoing.
Right.
Like I wish he could. Can we just get him to not do some of the certain things he's been doing, and then because he absolutely deserves it. That's the frustrating part where I'm like, what you did for this team and this franchise, and you were so much fun to watch. I loved watching Adrian Peterson. Like we should be
Oh yeah.
sitting here right now going, hell yeah, he deserves to be in the Ring of Honor, and hell yeah, he's the first ballot Hall of Famer. And I hate the fact that we have to question it.
Yeah, it kind of hurts that we have to question it because as a football player, as a running back, I don't know how many better there were in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't think I'll be taking up any celebrity boxing anytime soon, Andrew.
But we had to hop in here and do a show because we were planning on doing one earlier this week, but things kind of fell through. And we're inching closer and closer to the Super Bowl. And like we said, Mr. Smith is out of town, and we were able to get this show up. And
Who's
I'm
your
glad we were able to, but we're
who's
going
your
to keep it
Super
a
Bowl
short one.
who's your Super Bowl pick, Adam?
See, I keep sleeping on New England, but I do think this is Seattle's game.
I'm rooting for Sam Darnold. I think that he's we said this when he was on the team. He's a real easy guy to like, a very likable guy. I love what he's been able to do with his career, turning it around from a guy who was viewed as a bust
Right.
to going to play in the Super Bowl. I don't hold it against him at all that he left and went to Seattle and continued to have success. Like
What's
that's
crazy is that both these quarterbacks are in their 20s, and we could be watching them for a long time.
yeah. So I'm gonna root for Seattle. I'd like to see Sam Darnold win one. I would like that narrative. Also, New England has had enough success.
And
I
let's be honest, Drake May took a big step forward this year, and he's looking like a guy that could help them be relevant in the AFC for a long, long time.
Yeah, can you imagine if we had Drake May?
But yeah, I don't think we're going to go too much into a lot of the other stuff that's been going on for right now. We'll probably call it there for this week and come back next week when we got Mr. Smith so we can have a full roundtable and discuss everything.
Yep, we'll talk about the Super Bowl. We'll maybe do our award show next week. We've been teasing that for like a month now, but
Right?
maybe we will maybe
Maybe
we'll
it'll happen.
actually
We'll
do it.
see.
Now we got to have all three of us here for that one.
But I do want you to check out my work over on the Viking Age. I got a great team over there that always has some great, interesting things to talk about when it comes to the Minnesota Vikings. So if you're a fan, check it out, support us. I'd appreciate it.
Are you guys gonna hire Kwesi? He's
Hey, you never know.
available.
What was that? The 33rd team or whatever that hired a bunch of like the former
Yeah,
Minnesota Vikings GMs and coaches and all that.
yeah.
You never
Oh,
know.
real. Hey, real quick. I know we're trying to wrap the show up. I'll keep this real super quick here. Uh, I don't believe the drama that has kind of circulated around Kwesi being the reason why he was let go from the team. Like this story that 2 or 3 years ago he took a couple weeks off to be with the birth of his son has
Oh, I hate that.
anything to do with the Wilf family in 2026 letting go of him. Like that to me is absolutely
I don't
ridiculous.
think that
That
paternity leave had anything to do with it, but I think there are people who are willing to hold anything against him.
and if you look at that, the if you look at the wording of that statement, the outrage comes from other NFL executives, other general managers who couldn't
Right,
believe that happened. That to me has nothing to do with the Vikings, and I would hope that we're the kind of organization. I say we like we're part of it,
right.
Adam, but we're fans of the team. But I would hope that the Wilfs would be like, hey, you just had, you know, the birth of your child. Please go spend time with your family. Like that's
Right.
more important. That's more important than football. Also, we have these things called phones and computers, and you can do what we're doing right now from at home, and
Absolutely.
you can be clued in as to what's going on.
Yeah, that whole narrative didn't strike me well at all. I actually got pretty mad about that.
Yeah, that to me is ridiculous. Like I truly do believe that it was just them looking at the the on the field football decisions that were made by him.
I
The
mean, don't get me
lack,
wrong, I love this podcast and I love the Minnesota Vikings, but my family is number one,
yeah, definitely.
and that's the way it always will be. Although, if you want me to be your number one, hit me up at MN Viking Zombie on all your social media.
It's a good segue. I like that.
Hey, Valentine's Day is coming up, and I don't have a Valentine, so you know, might as well do some advertising.
Maybe we can send Adam some chocolate. No, Adam's on a diet. Don't send Adam chocolate. What can you have?
Sugar-free chocolate,
You
maybe.
can have sugar-free chocolate. There you go.
But you are vaguely square on Blue Sky, correct?
Blue sky, correct.
Yeah,
I
hit us up.
am
Talk to us on social media. We love that.
I am rewatching all of The Walking Dead, as you know, Adam, and that is mostly what I've been posting about over on Blue Sky. And it's frustrating because I remember when I was watching that show live, and the funnest part of that used to be every Sunday, and you would talk to people. Oh my God, did you see
Oh
what
yeah, the
happened?
build up to the next week, talking
Did
about
you
what's going to
did you
happen,
see
what
what
did
happened
happen.
on Walking Dead? And sometimes I get on Blue Sky and we'll be like, oh my God, Daryl just beat this guy to death with a pipe. Oh, that's right. I'm the only person watching this specific part of the show right now.
Right.
No, no one else is.
Right now, my obsession is the traders on Peacock. I know it's
Yep.
reality competition television, but I love it. Good stuff. Andrew doesn't want to box me. Let's go. But yeah, we'll be back. I don't know when, but probably within the next 4 or 5 days, I'm guessing, when
Yeah,
Mr. Smith becomes available.
we'll
And we'll
shoot
do
for
another show and we'll talk about the Super Bowl and touch on everything a little bit more in depth, I think.
we'll shoot
In
for
the
middle of
meantime,
next
though,
week, I think.
thank you to everyone who joined us in chat. And we appreciate having you here. If you want to look at the whole catalog of shows, they're over on YouTube. Otherwise, we are wherever you listen to podcasts. We're there. In the meantime,